Today I'm reviewing Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie, and this is definitely her most famous novel that's known worldwide. Now you probably know a little bit about the plot, but it follows Detective Poirot, which is Agatha Christie's famous fictional detective that appears in 33 of her novels. And he finds himself on the Orient Express during a snowstorm where the train is stopped and there is a murder on the train. The body is left in a bathtub with multiple stab wounds, and there is quite a few different clues that seem to almost contradict each other. Some of the clues include a intricate handkerchief with the initial H written on it, a pipe cleaner, and accounts of a woman in a scarlet kimono during the time of the murder. Now, the story is set up where there is the murder that happens, then it moves on to the interrogations where Poirot is interrogating every member in the train, then of course there's the solution. Now, one of the big things that makes this book so great is each of the characters. They are all so unique. Now, I actually listened to the audiobook, which I would highly recommend, narrated by Dan Stevens. He did such a good job at narrating every character and giving each of them their own voice. At times, I almost wondered if there was different cast members narrating pieces, but all of it was done by Dan Stevens, so he can really do some really fantastic accents. I'm probably actually never going to imagine Poirot with a different voice now that I've heard his voice, because to me it just completely suits Poirot. Now this is probably a good time to mention that this is my first experience ever with this story. I've never watched any movie or TV adaptation. The only other book I've read by Agatha Christie is And Then There Were None, and I read that back in high school. I remember really enjoying it, but that didn't have Poirot in it, and I absolutely love Poirot's character, and now I really want to watch a movie adaptation, so if you know the best movie adaptation of Murder on the Orient Express, let me know down below. Actually, at the time of filming this review, there is a new Murder on the Orient Express movie coming out this year, which is starring Johnny Depp, Daisy Ridley, and Michelle Pfeiffer. I think there was one other person that I'm missing, but that looks very good. I watched the trailer for it. It definitely seems way more action-packed, but still, it looks really good to me, and I cannot wait to watch that. Now, it being my very first time experiencing this story, the ending came as a huge surprise to me. It was not what I was expecting, and I'm so glad that I was not spoiled of the ending before reading this book. It's funny, because actually there was a time when listening to the audiobook where I almost wanted to stop listening to it because I thought for sure I knew who the culprit was, and I found it kind of annoying because I thought that the author made it way too obvious, so that's why I almost shut off the audiobook, but I was wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong. Now looking back on it, I think that's one of the geniuses of this story, is that the book almost makes you believe that it's a certain person. Alright, so what makes this book such a classic mystery novel? For starters, I would say the atmosphere. It's very kind of claustrophobic because it takes place on a train during a snowstorm, so you're in small quarters. It's a very squishy atmosphere, and everybody kind of sticks to their own cabins because, of course, they know that a murder happened on this train, and somebody on the train is the murderer. And just the fact that there's a snowstorm and the train has stopped moving, this is definitely a book that's suited to read around fall or winter. Next, like I said, there is the characterization. The characters are all brilliant. They all have their own personalities. Then there is the way that Agatha Christie writes the book, where the reader thinks they know who the murderer is, or at least has some suspects. But yeah, overall, it was a brilliant book. I can see why it is a famous mystery book. I definitely want to read more by Agatha Christie. I really want to reread the one that I read, which was And Then There Were None. I remember watching the black and white movie, and I really liked that as well. So yeah, if you want to read this book and you haven't watched any of the movie adaptations, try not to spoil yourself, because you don't want to be spoiled by the ending. It will be a bit of a surprise, most likely. Anyway, thank you for watching this review. I will leave a link down below to my Instagram and my Twitter, as always, and I will see you guys in my next video.